2014, holiday time in the centre of Arras. 1914, the beginning of the First World War. Over the course of 4 years, thousands of young Australians and New Zealanders came to Europe to fight for the Allies. 75,000 of them died in the various battlefields. Today, their descendants travel to France to learn about their history, and some of them find it so fascinating they decide to stay. This bed and breakfast, for example, was recently taken over by Rodney Muir from Australia.
You've got the Somme 40 minutes away, you've got the Battle of Arras battlefields around you, and then all the battlefields to the north. It's Fromelles and also to Ypres, so it's all very, very close.
The Battle of Fromelles on the 19th of July 1916 was the worst night in Australia's history. 5,533 Australian soldiers died in less than 24 hours. Lambis Englezos is a retired art teacher and amateur historian from Australia. He has spent a lot of time studying the battlefields where it took place.
So now we are standing in no man's land. It is peaceful now, but these are the fields of death. And the Australian line began at those high trees, but the majority of those buried at VC Corner Cemetery were gathered from these fields after the war. So this is no man's land.
At VC Corner Cemetery, 410 unidentified Australian soldiers are buried in individual, though unmarked, graves. Many Australian tourists visit to pay their respects.
For me, it's important to come here because Australia is a very young country with very little history. But fighting in the First World War was the time where Australia became a nation and fought as a nation. So it was the turning of our country to become one.
Pheasant Wood Cemetery is also close to the former battlefields of Fromelles. 250 Australian soldiers were reinterred here in 2010, thanks to Englezos and his team, who discovered a long-forgotten mass grave. Using DNA tests, 144 of the 250 have been identified so far.
The DNA samples are now back in Australia, so people will go through their family trees, offer up their DNA in the hope that we can identify more. Identifying one was wonderful, but 144 is sensational. A lot of people think that this has been a waste of money. I don't see it that way. I believe we have that moral obligation. If you can find your war dead, you must do it. They cannot be an inconvenience.
And it's just when you read the information about it and the numbers that are lost from all countries, it's such sacrifices you just can't comprehend for what purpose.
As the old museum of Fromelles was no longer big enough, a new one opened next to the Pheasant Wood Cemetery on the 30th of June this year.
C'est la première fois pour un site archéologique contemporain qu'il y a eu un tel déploiement de spécialistes, de scientifiques. Il est spécial parce que les objets qui sont présentés sont presque en totalité locaux, donc ils viennent de quelques centaines de mètres d'ici. Ce qui est particulièrement émouvant aussi, c'est le lien qu'il y a avec le cimetière Pheasant Wood qui permet d'avoir cette identification aux soldats et cette compréhension de leur vécu.
The museum also has the ambition to find a name for every tombstone in the adjacent graveyard.
And actually, we have a project on our website. You can contribute to make our collection, our stories collection grow, and having contribution. If you have a letter, if you have a picture or a story concerning a soldier who fought in Fromelles or who was in Fromelles between these 4 years of the Great War, you can share it with us.
By talking to a family and consulting various archives, our young reporter from New Zealand was able to find out where her great-great-uncle was buried. After buying some flowers, she ventured to Bienvillers-aux-Bois to find his grave. He had died in the Battle of the Somme when he was only 23 years old.
It means a lot to me to be here today